The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Ricky and Clive Wrestling Show. Listener discretion is advised at all times.
Hello, and thank you once again for downloading and listening to another episode of the Ricky and Clive Wrestling Show, part of the Social Suplex Podcast Network. My name is Clive, and unfortunately Ricky is unable to be with us tonight, as well as childcare issues. It's actually the start of Ramadan, and during the time of recording, it's the fasting time, and that's when the fast stops, and he has to eat lots and lots of food. So sadly Ricky won't be here tonight, but he will be in our thoughts. However, I am joined by someone else whose name begins with R. He's been on before. One half of Outsider's Edge, which is on the Social Suplex Network. He's also one half of World Class Radio with Jordan Fox. Rance Morris, how are you tonight?
Hello, Governor. That's all I got. I was trying to be British or Scottish. I can't do it. What's happening, man? I can't replace Ricky. I just can't. I don't have the boy band good looks. I don't have the monologues that he goes on. I just don't have it.
I think you do have a strong showing for monologues, to be fair.
I do, actually, yeah. Now that you say that. I do, yeah. What's up, man?
I'm good, thanks. In case you're wondering why Rance has decided to try some UK accents, tonight is going to be all about the United Kingdom Division fringe part of WWE.
Hooray!
Hoorah, hoorah! Obviously, United Kingdom in general has been in the news quite a lot recently for WWE. There was WWE were in UK last week with Raw and SmackDown. They did the tours. You've had Pete Dunne has been the UK champion now for just over a year. He celebrated that anniversary. It was also the anniversary of that match of the year between Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate.
Oh yeah, that just passed, didn't it?
Yep. Same match where Dunne won the championship, so that's firmly lodged in my memory. I've seen that a good few times, but it's also it is a great match. But we're also on the eve of another United Kingdom Championship tournament, which will be on the Royal Albert Hall June the 18th and 19th, a couple of days after Money in the Bank weekend in Chicago. So that's going to be
the day after, actually.
That's right, the day after. So you've got NXT TakeOver Chicago, you have Money in the Bank, and then you have, on the same nights as Raw and SmackDown, you've got the United Kingdom tournament. So that's going to be a really busy week. I'm not sure how we're going to cover all that. I'm not sure how I'm going to watch all that, never mind cover it all. But I think with all this UK-centric stuff in mind, I thought we would go over the UK division since the first tournament back in January last year. So, Rance, just a sort of overall question for you.
Sure.
How successful do you think the UK division has been in terms of its format or the model it's been presented, the wrestlers that we've been gifted seeing now, and just to focus on the UK scene in general since that tournament last January?
Well, the question is there even a division? The guys kind of, I don't want to say they wander around aimlessly, but they, outside of Dunn, they kind of drift in and out of the WWE consciousness. We haven't seen Wolfgang in almost a year on television, Gallagher is a cruiserweight, so technically he doesn't count, even though he does do stuff with them. Tyler Bate fell in the bad graces because he kept getting hurt and decided to go on a tour instead of work WWE dates. So it's I think the wrestlers that they picked to kind of be the anchors were really good wrestlers because they're not just guys who can go. Because wrestling nowadays, 90% of all wrestlers can go, but there's something about that British style that I feel like every British wrestler that comes out just about can go.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's almost kind of like Japanese in the sense that, and it's a different style even though it's similar, but every British wrestler that seems to come out is at the very least an excellent mat grappler. You know, like they're excellent. But the guys that the kind of the 4 or 5, so what's that? Dunn, Bate, Trent Seven, Mark Andrews, and Wolfgang. Maybe somebody else every now and then, but those are kind of the main 5. All 5, and I'll even throw Jack Gallagher in there. All 6 of those guys have characters.
Yep. Very well defined ones as well.
Yeah, very defined ones. So it's not like some of these other guys we'll talk about later today who don't really have characters but can go. Those 6 are like, Pete Dunne might be one of the most defined characters in the entire company.
I would agree there. That first night at the tournament last year when he was basically, it reminded me of the bad boy in the classroom and William Regal was the teacher and Dunne's trying to upset the balance in the room. I can't remember exactly who he levelled at the end when they were doing the pose before the second night. Regal was in Dunne's face, and we'd actually had a brief conversation in the Messenger group chat last week about Pete Dunne outside of the ring, and how he's not that much of a talker, but I think he's definitely one of those guys that doesn't need to talk because the amount of the message that he gets across in his facials alone, he doesn't need to talk for me. Absolutely. And you know, a lot of guys, so toughness is something that is very overrated in wrestling. And I say that because you have to inherently be tough to do this, right? Even at the very least, Kelly is extremely tough to wrestle. So you have to be somewhat tough. But I feel like we can take toughness for granted too because we expect everybody to be tough or know that everybody's tough. But then there are some people who you can just tell, like, there's another level of toughness. Pete Dunne is a dude that you can look at him. You don't have to ever see him talk. You just look at him and say, man, I'm not going to mess with that guy. I mean, you know, and he's 5'10", 185 pounds. I know. I think it helps with his gum shields, but remember Jaws from the James Bond films? Yeah. Did he ever talk? No. Well, Batista, Hinks. A lot of the time, the henchmen on Bond films don't talk. But I think the difference is, just to add to that, and maybe it is something similar to what you're saying with the Bond henchmen, but the thing with Pete is that he kind of has, forgive me for bringing up a taboo guy, me and you were kind of talking about him slightly before we got on the call, but he reminds me of Benoit in that while he doesn't talk well, he exudes charisma with everything he does, every movement. So he's talking to you without talking, if that makes any sense. But that's when it was talking about Jaws there from the Bond films. He's one of the more memorable villains that there's been in that series, and I wouldn't say I'm a Bond enthusiast, but I can't remember him ever speaking. And obviously there's the similarities with the gum shield, making it look as if he's got these metal teeth. But even down to just the slightest of smirks, the raise of the eyebrows, or when he growls, Pete Dunne's got a vast array of facials that just add so much to his character. And I've been in love with him ever since I saw him. I'm not going to say that I know of his work outside of WWE. So my first introduction to him was at this UK tournament. But he's been top notch, and I have been keeping an eye on him since the tournament that they had. It wasn't a tournament, they had a sort of just another special on the network a few weeks before Chicago's takeover last year. If you remember that. It was a UK tournament? Well, it was just a sort of UK division showcase again, and they had a number one contender match between Mark Andrews and Tyler Bate. Yes, I do remember that. That match between Andrews and Bate was fantastic, but the actual match that they had at TakeOver Chicago, I remember watching it. My only less than a year old son at the time was up during the night, So I thought, right, I'm going to stick on TakeOver just now, and I watched that match live, and I was blown away. It was just, so I was looking forward to just watching the whole TakeOver again in the morning, and that British strong style that they bring to it is similar to the Japanese strong style, which is very popular at the moment. They had the crowds eating out the palm of their hands. Just so much.
I'm sorry, I just want to add real quick, they also had a story. It wasn't just match. They had a very well-defined, very well thought-out told story. You know, Dunn attacked Bate before the match at the UK tournament, and Bate beat Dunn, even though Dunn did everything he could to kind of finagle his way to the finals. And before all that, Dunn trained Bate. So like they had such a story that add that to the physical match part, and it was magic.
It was, and they had a rematch. Must have been the last NXT TV show in December, I think.
Oh, the rematch? Yeah.
It was a very different tone to the match, but I still enjoyed that. And maybe if that match was in the Chicago crowd, it was probably better. But I think just magic happened that night last year around this time as well. So, but
can I ask you a question? What's up with Tyler Bate? Because we just said that all of those 6 guys, and I guess you can count Danny Burch in there too, because since he's been hired full time. But all those guys kind of have defined roles, and Tyler Bate is tremendous in the ring, but he seems like he's not quite himself unless Trent Seven is with him.
I know, I don't get it, because there is something, it doesn't seem comfortable doing all the camera stuff. Yeah,
that's a good way to put it. He doesn't seem comfortable.
I don't know if you remember the last time 205 Live did their UK thing, not last week, but when Enzo was the champ, and they had a few UK wrestlers line up in the ring, and they were basically questioned one by one, conveyor belt style, and they were setting up a main event match between Enzo and Tyler Bate, and it was, I don't know if Enzo was off script and he was just throwing Tyler Bate off, but he didn't come across well at all. He looked as if he was stumbling, didn't know what to say. Just, I'm not sure. There was a few other guys that night, I think Joseph Connors was one of them, that could go toe-to-toe on the mic. Toe-to-toe on the mic, that makes a world of sense. But you know what I mean.
It's wrestling, nothing makes sense. Yes.
And as you say, he has really good matches. He had a decent match with TJP in the Cruiserweight tournament.
He's great in the ring, yeah.
He's fantastic in the ring for what he does. I think it's an odd one, because he has that charisma in the ring. He's got that, not the vaudevillain as such, but the old callback to the old carnival days.
That old-timey type feel, yeah.
With the tighty whities and the boots.
With no knee pads and the mustache, and he does like old style moves like the airplane spin. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But something missing.
There is something missing, and I think it's hard to pinpoint what it is. And he has been given lots of chances, so obviously the likes of Triple H and Regal see something in him.
He won the first damn tournament in the first place.
He did, and at the time I was annoyed. Probably just kayfabe annoyed, because I preferred Pete Dunne, and in hindsight I'm glad it happened because of the match that we ended up getting at Chicago. But,
well, that, and you had to end that first time major tournament with a positive note.
That's
you couldn't
true.
end it with a negative note.
And Kyle Moores had been saying on the Facebook group, Squared Circle Facebook group last night, I believe, he's only 21.
Yeah,
he's got plenty of time to work on all the hard cam stuff and promo classes at the PC. But
well, that's the thing. He don't report to the PC. The UK division is so different that they're allowed to be indie wrestlers until the WWE needs them. So they're not at the PC. So he's not doing promo classes. He's not, spending time with Regal and all these guys, Robbie Brookside and Norman Smiley and everybody, Shawn Michaels, all the people there. He's not spending that time with them. So he's literally, So I guess it's what works better for you, on the job training or going to school.
Maybe he's just loyal to the tours that he has, and that's how he apparently got into trouble in the first place and was demoted, so to speak.
Yeah, but I think part of it too is that WWE's paying these guys, but they're not making great money because they're not working a lot of WWE dates. WWE's basically paying them to retain them, if you will, more so than for them to work. Because, as we get deeper into what we want to talk about today, we'll talk about this more. But I have a theory about the UK division I want to hit you with a little later.
Right, okay then. Do you mean the tournament or the division itself?
The division itself.
Right, okay then. Well, other folk that have been in the division that have had more of a presence on the likes of 205 Live and NXT, you've got Wolfgang, who has kind of disappeared. I mean, he did house shows recently, part of the European tour, all over Instagram, so it was him, Trent Seven and Tyler Bate. High Flying Wolf Mountain, I can't remember what the name was.
The Wolf, High Flying Wolf Mountain.
Something. Okay. I can't remember exactly what it was. Trent Seven's been good, but he seems to have just sort of fallen by the wayside as well. Mark Andrews has had a bit more luck. He's had a good showing in the tournament, the Cruiserweight tournament, and I quite like his style, although his wrestling work is a bit predictable and almost, what's the word? I can't remember. Telegraphed. So you know what he's going to do.
Andrews?
Mm-hmm.
Most cruisers are.
That's true.
When you fly high and risk take like a lot of those guys do, most stuff is telegraphed because you got to stand there and wait for them.
Mm-hmm.
So doesn't mean it's any less amazing when it happens. It's just it's not free flowing like a lot of other mat based wrestling is.
Because with Mark Andrews, this cruiserweight action is naturally very quick paced, but I don't know, even with him being quite slight, it seems like, right, he's taking his time in the ring, and I know he does really impressive aerial stuff, like the standing corkscrew moonsaults.
Yeah.
And I suppose recently I was caught off guard when he was doing his Stun Dog Millionaire, I think it is.
A really wild, flippy stunner, yeah, and it looks great. But it's a setup move. You know, you would think that would be a finisher. It's a setup.
Yeah, and he's good with the crowd though. He's got that pop punk music. He's got his own band. I think it might actually be his own. Is it his own music?
It's his own music. That's him when he comes out.
And he was quite popular when he was in TNA's X Division as Mandrews, but what an awful...
Terrible name. Yeah, terrible name.
Oh.
But you know what? Can I say it's a terrible name? Because my partner in crime, his name is Carl Irvin, and he goes by the name Curvin. So it's the same thing. I can't really trash Mandrews if I don't trash Curvin.
They must be kindred spirits then.
Maybe they are. Carl is kindred with a lot of things. So
that's another podcast for another day, that one.
Yes, and we will talk about it one day, I promise.
One of the other people who's doing well for themselves currently is Danny Burch.
Danny Burch is killing it right now.
I know. The gimmick that they've got, this 1-2, it's not really cool, if that makes sense. Standing in the air with Oney Lorcan holding up one finger and Burch is holding up two. I get why they're doing it, but apart from all that, I like their long-term story that they've had where Burch and Lorcan were just having a couple of matches on NXT and they had respect for each other. Slowly but surely they've formed a decent tag team, and they've been incorporated into Pete Dunne's ongoing war with the Undisputed Era. I tweeted it out last week. That 6-man tag match that they had last week with Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong, That's one of the matches of the year for me. I really enjoyed that from start to finish. It was excellent.
And he got like 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm. And without an advert as well.
Mm-hmm.
If they started doing that with other main event matches on NXT?
Yes, I think. I'm trying to remember.
I don't know. It just seemed to stand out because they have a lot of really good main event matches on NXT, but they're always broken up by something else to wrestle with Bruce Bloody Pritchard or...
Well, yeah, they have... So it's always 2 segments.
Mm-hmm.
Normally it's 2 segments. They'll start the match. It'll be broken up in the middle. I can't remember one that wasn't really broken up like that, but this was also really long too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's a good question.
But I think this one definitely benefited from it, and it was quite a joy to see Danny Burch, who's just been plodding along, not getting a lot of TV time. He picked up the win. That was nice to see.
Well, you say Danny Burch. Only Lorcan has been in that performance center for like 3 years.
I know.
And hasn't been given anything.
And I don't understand why.
Because I'm sorry to be that guy, but Oni is a tough bastard, right? Oni is tough as hell. He is, to be so small. That's Oni, and to use a UK term, Oni and Danny Burch are 2 tough blokes, right? But the thing with both of them was that individually, and I know I'm going to contradict myself because I said that it's a character trait for Pete Dunne, but Oni's toughness and Burch's toughness wasn't getting over as a character trait. Like, if you were to describe Oni Lorcan to say your wife, right? How would you describe him?
A very strong, human-sized spider.
That's a lot better than I would have done. I would have said...
He's all arms and legs.
Yeah, pretty much. I would have said a skinny, small, bald guy from Boston who can fight. Is that a character?
Well, I'm not sure if I agree with you because I can remember off the top of my head 3 or 4 really good matches that he had in NXT in 2017. First one was 2 weeks before Mania weekend, and he fought Almas.
Yeah.
Well,
he's great in the ring. He can go, but I mean, in terms of his character, like who he is so if you would, okay, so we just said what are the other 6 guys we just said? We just said Bate, Seven, Dunn, Wolfgang, Mark Andrews, and Gallagher. We haven't talked about Gallagher yet, but the other 5, right?
Right.
Mark Andrews is a pop punk high flyer who likes to stage dive, right?
Right.
That's a gimmick. You can understand that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wolfgang is the king of the drifters or whatever he is.
Yeah, kind of biker guy.
Kind of a biker bar type guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can understand that. Trent Seven and Tyler Bate are kind of happy-go-lucky, old-timey wrestling guys with their mustaches, right?
Uh-huh.
Pete Dunne is, as Danny Burch and Oni Lorcan affectionately called him, a prick.
Did they?
And by the way, to go off on a tangent, that promo was hilarious because he was like, "Hey, you know you're a prick, right? You know you're a piece of trash." And Pete Dunne was like, "Yeah, you're right."
Uh-huh.
But basically, he's a prick.
Yes, he's a terrier bulldog prick, but...
Yes. And speaking of bulldog, his logo is that a bear?
On his knee?
His tat on his knee, but they've kind of made that like his little logo too.
I think
you know what I mean?
I think that actually is a dog, and I think within the last few months his pet dog died, so he got the tattoo as a tribute.
Okay, well, so I didn't know it was that sentimental. I just thought it was something random. But those 5 guys defined, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not just, I can fight. Like, they actually have character traits, reasons why they are who they are. What is Oni?
You do prove a good point, but isn't it? Would you not accept that someone who's just a total tough dude?
No, I do, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that's why it took so long.
Right.
Because you can't just throw that out there and say, hey, get over. Something like that has to come at the right time. And excuse me. And they did. I hate that it took so long, but they seem to have done it right. They would throw Oni out there randomly and just let him just tear up the crowd and have great matches. And yeah, he would lose most of them, but you could tell like he gave you hell. And then the perfect situation comes where him and his British doppelganger and Danny Burch, they go out there and have a barn burner and beat the living hell out of each other.
Uh-huh.
Burch asks for a rematch. They do it again. Burch wins. And then they're like, hey, we should do this to other people. And now characters being built because you got somebody like you, you know what I'm saying? So, like, I'm not saying that him not having a defined character is bad. It takes longer to get over when you don't.
Right. I actually wonder if they are going to do something more with them.
I thought they were going to move him to the Cruiserweight division. I thought he would have been a good hand in the Cruiserweight division.
Uh-huh.
Because the Cruisers, I mean, they have, every division needs characters, but they kind of started focusing more on just the in-ring stuff. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Then so much like they don't do a whole lot of necessarily promos or a lot of character work, even though they're starting to get back to some of that recently.
Uh-huh.
But I thought he would have been perfect to just be like, tell me Oni can't do what Hideo's doing right now.
Exactly. See, I think there's room for them in this rumoured tag team division. They keep going on about it and they keep having tag team matches almost every week on 205 Live, but they split up Itami and Tozawa recently.
They never matched anyway. They were put together because they were Japanese. They don't match. Akira Tozawa is a pure, dragon-hearted babyface.
Baby, yep, took the words out of my mouth.
A lovable guy, right? Who has a battle cry and fights with passion and honor and all this. And Hideo is just a guy who feels like he's much better than everybody else and deserves stuff that he's never gotten. So he just is out here demanding respect. They never matched because Hideo was making Tozawa do things Hideo would never do. If you remember, the entire reason Itami and Tozawa got into that feud with the Lucha Booties or the Lucha House Party. Call them the Lucha Booties. You can thank Big E for that. The Lucha Booties.
Or as they would be called in Scotland, the Lucha House Party.
The Lucha House Party.
A little party.
A little party. Okay, yeah. So there's my Scottish for the day. But it's because Hideo just went too hard on Metalik one day. Unnecessarily. Just because.
Yep.
So, and Tozawa, what was Tozawa going to do? He got to stick up for his guy.
Aye, by default.
By default. So they never matched anyway. But yes, this looks like there's going to be a cruiserweight division, and I'm not a cruiserweight, but a tag team division in the cruiserweight division. And I mean, that's good for them as the show grows, and as the UK division grows. I don't know if they should have titles, but I'd like to see Mustache Mountain have more tag matches. I'd like to see more diversity with the UK guys.
See, I mean, out with the quote-unquote division, you do have some real good success stories. You've obviously got Drew McIntyre, who's doing some interesting stuff with Dolph Ziggler at the moment.
Yes.
Is in a spotlight angle, so to speak, or a spotlight push. Although they've kind of still not appeared, Killian Dane ended up getting some real good momentum on his side in the last year or so with Sanity. And I'm just waiting for Triple H to just pull the trigger and have Nikki Cross take on Shayna Baszler.
That's probably going to be the match takeover Chicago.
Oh, please. I've not seen any tapings. I try to avoid NXT tapings. If it's Nikki Cross versus Shayna Baszler, take my money right now.
That will be So here's the thing. That could either be tremendously great or it could be a train wreck. No in the middle.
I think for me right now, Shayna Baszler can do no wrong.
Same here. But their styles don't mesh.
Would you have said before it happened that Nikki Cross's and Asuka's styles would mesh?
This is true. This is a very good point. But Asuka is a 15-year veteran, and Shayna's been wrestling like 5. If 5.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, we forget because Asuka's only been in WWE 3+ years. Asuka's been wrestling for a long time.
Long time. I mean, I've said before, it's possibly just pure bias, but I'd love to see Nikki Cross win the Women's Championship. Definitely.
I would too. It's kind of tradition there that the four horsewomen. So the four horsewomen got called up, right? And they left Bayley to kind of help rebuild the women's division.
Mm-hmm. And
Bayley passed the title on to Asuka, and everybody else got called up, and Asuka stayed back to help rebuild the new division. And once she got called up, Ember got the title, and Ember stayed back to help build up the women's division, and she got called up. Now Shayna got the title, and I feel like, I don't know who's going to get called up between Shayna and Nikki first, but I feel like whenever there's a woman who is definitively the top woman in that company, NXT wise,
mm-hmm.
they reward them with the championship
before it's call up.
Before they get called up.
Yes.
It's just something that they seem to have done. The only person who didn't get rewarded was Becky, but she was in it. And I guess you could say Emma, but that was a different time. But in modern times, Becky was surrounded by so much quality that, they couldn't have gave her a championship.
Mm-hmm. She got lost in the shuffle, which is a shame because what some could argue, she's the better wrestler out of the lot of them if given half a chance.
Sure, but I mean, you could make the same argument for Mick Foley against Triple H, Rock, and Austin. Foley should have won more than 2 championships?
I know.
2 world titles, but because he was around 3 of the greatest of all time, he just couldn't fit in there. So
it's just timing,
man. You can't help. Will Chamberlain would have more championships if he wasn't born the same time as Bill Russell.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like Patrick Ewing could probably have a championship if he wasn't born the same time as Michael Jordan.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to think of a football player. Wayne Rooney would. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying.
I'm sure Ricky will be nodding his head when he listens back. He goes, yes. I heard Michael Jordan and I went, oh, I know him. He was in that Bugs Bunny film, yes.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. I jest, guys. Sorry, I know exactly who he is. Baseball star, yeah.
Yeah, he's that guy from the Hanes commercial.
Where were we? See, with Nikki Cross, I think it was right not to call her up.
Yes, absolutely.
I know Shayna Baszler's doing really well, but they still need an anchor. You've got a lot of women who still need some experience to work off. Lacey Evans is doing well at the moment, actually, and Kairi Sane's doing not bad. I'm not as sold on Kairi Sane as everyone else is, but Nikki Cross, by default, has kind of become one of the veterans there. She's been there quite a long time now. Just wish she was used a bit more than she has been recently, but maybe we'll see a change in that with all the call-ups from WrestleMania and whatnot with the Iconics out the way.
And I want to think about this. I know they're nothing alike in characters, but I remember when Enzo and Cass got called up. They asked, because it was on Breaking Ground when they got called up, the TV show.
Uh-huh.
And they asked Triple H, well, what about Carmella? and said, no, Carmella's staying back. And the reason Carmella stayed without Enzo and Cass is because they saw so much star potential in her that they didn't want her to be lost in the shuffle of being another part of Enzo and Cass, being a valet or just like a third wheel or any other of those analogies you can make. They saw money in her, and forgive the pun, and I know you're Mr. Carmella fan, but as you can see, while she's not Sasha Banks in the ring, she has lived up to that potential. And I feel like with Nikki Cross, while Sanity is better with Nikki Cross, the gimmick didn't need her, and she has money written all over her alone.
Yes, there was a time when there was a time when she was at the forefront of the popularity as far as Sanity's concerned.
Yeah, she was the reason Sanity got over, I would argue.
Yeah, with the whole Ruby Riott stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
because she was beating up her own guys. Poor Alexander Wolf has taken so many punches to the face from Nikki Cross.
I know.
I feel bad for my guy.
I like Alexander Wolf, I have to say.
I do too, man. He's really underrated because Alexander Wolf is kind of that glue guy who you probably can't name 5 moves he does, but everything important that happens in matches he's a part of.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
He's actually quite the suplex machine.
Well, he's German. I'm just saying, you know.
I thought he was from T-Bone. No?
He's from T-Bone? That's a country?
No.
I know a Tyson T-Bone who's going to be in the UK tournament. You see how I did that?
Oh, nice.
Professional journalist.
Nice segue.
Oh, can I tell you my theory real quick, because I know we're going to get more into the actual tournament.
Well, just go for it, yeah.
But it's relevant to what we're talking about. So, obviously the news has been riddled with all of the WWE deals with SmackDown, Raw, and all this, right?
Aye.
And you know, the UK deal, they're going to announce that in the next 6 months, and the India deal they're going to announce after that. So there's all this influx of money coming in, right?
Right. I
feel like the announcement for this UK showcase King of the Ring thing at Royal Albert Hall, is that what it's right?
Yep, that's right.
I feel like this is twofold. One, because it's way overdue for the UK division to have something to themselves. But two, I feel like the announcement of the UK division is coming. And I feel like because of all this extra influx of cash, which means more abilities to run shows, extra shows, not just wrestling shows, but extra shows, network shows in general, I feel like we will hear an announcement on either June 18th or 19th, whichever day it is, of the official UK network TV show debuting by the end of the year.
I'm not sure if it will be... I mean, I think there is going to be a TV show. I'm not sure if it will be exclusive to the network. I mean, I do agree with what you're saying.
Well, yeah, it would probably be on Sky Sports, right?
Or maybe one of the terrestrial channels like ITV, Channel 3 or something like that.
World of Sports on ITV, so it wouldn't be there.
I'm not sure what's happening with that. That seems to have been hindered quite a few times.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, I do agree. I think there is something in the works. There is something being planned. And with SmackDown moving over to Fox next year, apparently moving over to Friday nights, there is... Pete Dunne's becoming quite a figure in the NXT scene. Like, more often than not, he's there. You've got... I mean, Jack Gallagher wasn't part of the UK division, but Jack Gallagher and Drew Gulak are both in the tournament coming up. We'll talk about that in a minute. There just seems to be a lot of, as you say, not a division as such, but a lot of intermingling between a lot of the fringe shows. WWE have the non-main roster stuff. So NXT 205 Live, there's been crossovers with the Cruiserweight tournament. UK guys are coming in and out. I don't know, obviously they're not going to call it WWE's Fringe show. But it's as if they're I don't know, it's hard to pinpoint exactly what they're doing, but I think they're trying to do something with it, definitely. And I'm not sure what. I mean, I have to wonder what's going to happen with 205 Live as well, just because of if Fox are going to take up SmackDown, what's going to happen to the tapings of 205 Live? What's the format in general? The format of 205 Live is in question.
Oh, because it's... Yeah, well, and I guess I owe Caleb for this, but he's always argued just change the name, because 205 Live always was going to be better served if it was taped in front of Full Sail.
Oh, of course.
It was like, if that show was taped in front of Full Sail from the very beginning, it would have been maybe not to the NXT level because of the differences in the roster per se, but it would have been so much bigger than it is, because when you watch NXT, a big part of why NXT is so good, because yes, it has great wrestling, yes, it has great character work, yes, it has great stories, but the crowd is so good that even bad stuff makes you say, well, man, that's pretty cool.
I mean, even although I myself have slagged him off something rotten, the Full Sail crowd very vocally do not like Kona Reeves, but it's entertaining.
You don't like Kona Reeves.
No shit, Sherlock. But it's entertaining just seeing the reaction from the crowd.
Bro, the Full Sail crowd got us to care about Adam Rose. Point blank, period. That's it. There's no conversation. Adam Rose got over. Adam Rose called me. I'm really trying to remember correctly. I think Adam Rose had like 4 appearances on this NXT TV before he got called up, because the crowd responded to him so well.
Was it only that many? Was it not Leo Kruger or something as well?
No, I'm talking about that. Yeah, he was Leo Kruger for a long. He was Leo Kruger going back to FCW. I'm talking about the Adam Rose character, not the person, but the character. It only made like 4 or 5 appearances on NXT TV, and then he's gone to the main roster because Full Sail was so high. The Ascension, Full Sail made us think the Ascension was a great tag team. Go back and watch who they wrestled.
I know.
Nope, they wrestled me and you like every week. But they had us thinking that they were really the new Road Warriors, well, maybe not the Road Warriors, but you know what I'm talking about.
And now they are sidekicks to Breezango.
And when you're sidekicks to Breezango, that's Breezango's great, but that's pretty low.
You're not hired anymore for your wrestling abilities.
Pretty much. Have you looked at? Forgive me for being mean, but have you seen Connor lately? I don't think Connor really even cares about working out anymore.
I agree, and that actually reminds me I was going to ask something about this 205 Live thing. You know how they keep having Buddy Murphy weigh in?
Mm-hmm.
I think Drake Maverick needs to have a wee word with Grand Metalik.
That's a good point.
Maybe
so.
That attire's starting to look just a bit tight on the King of the Ropes.
I've always... called me crazy, but I've always been skeptical of people that wear full body singlets like that or stuff like that, because you can get away with not having to look perfect. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of the reason Buddy's having to do it too is, yes, he was, I wouldn't say a heavyweight, but he wasn't a cruiser. But it's also an outsider thing too, because Buddy was an NXT guy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of the outsider deal.
That's the thing, there's just a lot of toing and froing between them, and I did have a theory, and I thought it would play into the UK tournament, so we'll sort of move on to the matches that have been announced recently and the competitors. I had a theory, right, that you watch 205 Live weekly, yeah?
Yes. I missed this past week and I missed last week, but other than that I'm caught up.
Right, well, I'm going to give a wee spoiler away for you. It's not too big a spoiler, right? But a couple of weeks ago, it was Drew Gulak in commentary who was enjoying the work of Kendrick and Gallagher.
Okay.
Because of their like-minded wrestling style, the sort of nasty smash-mouth grappler.
Mm-hmm.
And Gulak was in action this week versus Grand Metalik, and Kendrick and Gallagher came out and commentated in the match, and they too applauded Gulak's style, saying he was the best technical wrestler in 205 Live and all that stuff. And I think it was actually Sir Sam had said in response to one of the columns that I did, it would be good to see Gulak, Gallagher and Kendrick team up to form some sort of alliance, and I keep thinking something's going to happen with that. But all of a sudden, the first round of the United Kingdom Championship tournament, taking place next month, has Drew Gulak versus Jack Gallagher. Yeah. That just, unless they've got something planned, or unless they don't care about continuity, that throws my theory in the away entirely.
Well, I remember you texted me before when we were first talking about the show, just brainstorming, and you were I don't want to say you were hot, but you were really concerned about UK tournament, specifically because they decided to put Gallagher and Gulak in it, and because the original UK tournament was a showcase for new UK talent, mm-hmm. to get them over with the mainstream crowd and kind of build some new UK stars, hopefully for the division and the show that they'll have in the future. This show is different in that it's not a showcase for the UK division in terms of new talent. It's a showcase for the division in general, and it's they're going to have some new guys to introduce you to and to show you, but still it's like most of the matches are with established guys. Like, it's effectively their pay-per-view, so to speak.
But
go ahead.
Maybe that's the seeds being sown with Pete Dunne defending the UK title against the likes of Johnny Gargano, Roderick Strong, non-UK, non-British wrestlers. But if what you're theorising earlier, that they're going to have a UK division show, then would they not want to yet again sort of put over UK wrestlers only and non-WWE established UK wrestlers? I mean, I'm fine with the likes of, you've got Jordan Devlin. Let me see the list here. Can't remember them off the top of my head. Got Jordan Devlin coming back.
Tyson T-Bone's back.
Tyson T-Bone, James Drake.
Yeah.
Joseph Connors.
He's back, yeah.
Tucker. You got a few there that have been in it before. That's fine, because I think they're all good. They've been on TV since in 205 Live. So it makes sense to remind fans who these guys are if they are intending to do a network show. But Jack Gallagher, okay, I like his wrestling style. I prefer him as a babyface, if I'm being honest. But you've got him in there. Why Drew Gulak? As much as I love Drew Gulak and his PowerPoint presentations, I didn't say that long enough, did I? Why is he in it?
Drew's in it probably. I don't have one concrete reason, but my argument, my thought process would be, one, Drew Gulak does British style wrestling better than anybody on the main roster right now, not named William Regal probably. And I mean, with respect to the UK guys, the younger UK guys, and someone like Cesaro or Bryan, but you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. But Gulak's from Philadelphia. But if you told me he was born in Cardiff, I would believe it, Or you told me he was born in like Newcastle or just a British city, I'd believe. I'd be like, yeah, you know what? I knew it. I knew he was lying. Because he wrestles like he's from there.
He does.
But also on top of that, star power. I realize Drew Gulak isn't, gonna get your show $1 billion. but Drew Gulak is a known commodity, so that you can, I wouldn't say you can build your show around, but you could at least point to fans who might not, and I don't want you to take this the wrong way, because I'm a big firm believer that the UK should get more love from WWE than it does. Get more shows, more this, more that. But there's a huge contingent of American fans who probably could care less about anything going on over there.
Do you mean the independent scene?
No, I'm talking about okay, so if you were just casual WWE fan number 4, right, and it's Saturday, and you want to watch you want to watch the network, and you just want to see some wrestling, and you see WWE UK tournament on, would you watch just off of the fact that it's the UK tournament?
You would be better asking someone, not me, that question.
Right. Now, I would, because I love wrestling and I was interested in seeing the new people and the new stuff. Some people not.
Uh-huh.
So that's why you have a couple of known guys like Jack Gallagher or Drew Gulak, or then you even have some smaller known guys like Zach Gibson, who's kind of known in wrestling circles, and just you have some guys who are fairly known. Jordan Devlin.
Mm-hmm.
Every time they talk about Jordan Devlin, they mention Finn Balor. Like, you can't hear the words Jordan Devlin and not hear Finn Balor.
I know.
Within 2 minutes, because they want to remind you that, hey, this guy was trained by Finn Balor. By the way, did you know that this guy was trained by Finn Balor? So I was talking to Jordan Devlin the other day, by the way, who was trained by Finn Balor. Like, they want to make you remember, because you associate that in your mind with, I like Finn, I should like him, or I like Finn, but he's nothing like Finn, or I don't like Finn, so I don't like him. Some type of reaction, which gets people who aren't naturally United Kingdom fans invested. The Pete Dunne saga of the first day of the UK tournament the first time is what kept American fans and non-British fans interested in the tournament, because they wanted to see what this fool gonna do next.
Mm-hmm.
He out here breaking fingers, breaking arms, attack people from behind, almost get into fisticuffs with William Regal. You know what I mean?
I don't think it's a mistake. I don't think it was just for NXT Creative that Pete Dunne recently turned face either. Now that I think about it, because all this is leading up. You've got Pete Dunne, not the forefront of the mid card of NXT, but he's a very prominent figure right now. Mm-hmm. And he happened to slowly but surely get over as a babyface with Roderick Strong as a tag team. Then he got screwed over by Strong, so he automatically became a face. He's working with faces now, and it's just around the time where WWE went to the UK, and they've got the UK tournament again, and it's just in case you're wondering, the fact that they've got Royal Albert Hall, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
The reason they had it on a Monday and Tuesday night is because they couldn't find any other night to get it. The whole year, basically. It was, we have to get this, we really want this venue. It's a very high-class theatre place where they have Last Night of the Proms, or the sort of famous classical music around the summertime.
Wow. And it looks beautiful from the outside, too.
So, the big focus on Pete Dunne, and obviously the winner of this upcoming tournament will face Dunne for the title. So maybe this is actually, they have been making a big focus for UK, and something is in the works. Maybe it is in one of the terrestrial TV channels, maybe it is on the network. And if they've got Drew Gulak as a selling point, then fair enough. But why is he facing off against Jack Gallagher in the first round, when, as you would be led to believe, kayfabe-wise, they are good buddies at the moment?
To keep the sanctity of the tournament still somewhat relevant. The whole sanctity of that tournament is, yes, to introduce new stars to your television screen. You're losing 2 stars if you force Gallagher and Gulak to be in that to advance to the tournament. So a guy like, of the guys, and maybe you might want to do it, but I think we could. I say let's just announce the guys first. Is that fair?
Yep.
Okay, so we got what's this? It looks like Zach Gibson, Joe Coffey, never heard of him, Jack Gallagher, Dave Mastiff, Kenny Williams, El Ligero, never heard of him, Joseph Connors, Amir Jordan, never heard of him, Travis Banks, Flash Morgan Webster, who I think might be your breakout guy,
Possibly.
Jordan Devlin, Tucker, Gulak, Ashton Smith, never heard of him, James Drake, and Tyson Tebow. Mm-hmm. So if you have Gallagher and Gulak, the expectation is they're going to win. They don't have to, but that would be the expectation. So if both of those guys win, there are two guys who aren't going to advance who could have. They're not going to have an opportunity to get over with the crowd. You know what I'm saying?
I see where you're coming from now.
Yeah, so you get a chance to still use their platform and their popularity, for lack of a better term, to help build what the term is going to be, but yet you still have the opportunity to still make another guy who wouldn't have been made.
It's basically what you're saying is they're keeping the two, what you would assume, favourites together, so that only one of them is left after the first round, and when whoever is facing either Gallagher or Drew Gulak beats them, they go over with the crowd because they've beaten one of the favourites.
It's the same reason Gargano and Ciampa got put against each other in the Cruiserweight Classic. They could put against everybody. Both of those guys could have advanced.
That was an excellent match. Love that one.
Tremendous. Yes, I love every minute of that match. That's the best match of the Cruiserweight Classic to me.
Yes, I agree. I preferred it to the Ibushi Alexander one.
The only thing about Ibushi Alexander and Gargano Ciampa is if you like spots, if you like action, that's one of the most spot-based, action-packed matches I've ever seen. Yeah,
I think the reason that I still think fondly of the Ibushi matches is because it's just such a bizarre sight to see Kota Ibushi in an NXT ring.
It is. Same with Zack Sabre. It's really weird that those, and not only in NXT ring, but successful.
It's just bizarre.
Winning matches. It's really weird, but I'm glad he got a chance to live that dream. Because just like Jushin Thunder Liger got a chance to live his dream at TakeOver a couple years ago, I know every wrestler dreams of going to WWE at least once. That may not be their goal anymore, but that's a dream that every wrestler has. So, like, if you're a basketball player, you dream of playing in the NBA. You might not make it. That might not be your goal at a certain point, but that was your dream at one point. So, yeah, and Kota and Zack Sabre Jr. knocked it out the park. Speaking of British guys.
That's Sabre. Right, yeah. Who's doing wonders in New Japan at the moment.
Probably should have a championship.
What was it that he won recently? The Super Cup?
You gotta ask. Keep it strong style. I don't know. I know best that Super Junior is going on right now.
I'm pretty sure
that's all you got.
That he won the Super Cup a month or so ago. But we'll talk about WWE again then before we go on the New Japan roll. Right, so I can accept your reasoning for Gulak and Gallagher being in the same one. This is a twofold question. If we're going to showcase British wrestling, from what we've seen of the posters, it seems to be it's going to be NXT heavy.
Well, yeah.
So what do you think about that? Considering we've just had a takeover 2 nights prior.
So I think that because it's 2 nights, and because it's a special, I think it's fine because it gives diversity to the card. And technically, I can't speak to any other matches that may or may not have been announced or signed, But the one main match that I've seen is Mustache Mountain versus Cole and O'Reilly and Strong, and that's more of a call out to me than an NXT versus UK thing. Mustache Mountain said, "Look, we want y'all on our home turf."
Uh-huh.
Now I know there'll be other matches.
Are you aware of spoilers for NXT leading up to TakeOver?
I read them. I don't remember them all, but I did. I know the card. I know the TakeOver Chicago card.
Without telling me the full details, does Pete Dunne have a match in Chicago?
No.
Right. So he might have a match at London then.
Well, the winner of the tournament is supposed to fight him in the main event of the second night.
Right. Okay. Right, that makes sense. It just seems that it's very hot at the moment, this Britain, or Pete Dunne and Co. versus the Undisputed Era. And it seems like it might bleed over into like NXT. They might have some UK stuff going on at the TakeOver.
Yeah, I mean, Birch and Lorcan are probably going to end up fighting Undisputed Era for the tag titles at TakeOver. So that's, I mean, I know Only is from Boston, but that feels like a British team.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much talent. There's so much talent on that roster that there was almost a chance Ricochet and Velveteen Dream didn't get on the card. As of right now, EC3 isn't on the card.
It's been quite a quiet start for him so far.
Well, I feel like EC3 is doing what he should do. I like for new characters to start off slow.
Yeah.
To build themselves, to build their character and establish their character, and then to prove to the crowd why you should care about them not only as a character but as a wrestler. Yes, EC3 was in WWE before. Yes, EC3 was the face of TNA for a while, but you think the 3.5+ million people who watch Raw or SmackDown every week, probably more than that if you count SmackDown, really know that?
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So,
I'm just, again, there's just hints that there's going to be bleed over with UK into the other fringe stuff, especially with a sort of NXT-centric UK show.
So this is what it's looking like to me. About a month ago, WWE had their business partner summit.
Uh-huh.
And Triple H put out his plan for what he calls global localization. And this is something that Shane McMahon pitched years ago, but WWE wasn't in the space corporately, nor did they have the reach that they needed to have to do it. Now Triple H has kind of reformatted it and made it his own thing. And what that is basically in 15 years, let's say, he wants to have, not only does he want to have performance centers in every major region of the world. So, we have the North American Performance Center in Orlando, and then there'll be let's say a Latin American one in Brazil, and then like a Southeast Asian one in India, and then like a British one in London, and and then like a Middle Eastern one in Saudi Arabia or wherever.
Uh-huh.
And through that way, you have the better opportunity to globalize your brand, to build homegrown stars, and to have stars from that area be able to learn close to home and not have to pull a Shinsuke or Asuka and learn in complete total shock, culture shock rather. And then you can basically effectively do what the NWA did 30, 40 years ago, which is build a network of super indies. NXT is a corporately funded super indie. That's effectively what it is.
That's what it should be called, the Super Indie Show.
Yeah, well, yeah, and yeah, it's a super, like, it's truly a super indie. So, and I feel like the UK division, until it gets its own show and performance center or whatever it is that they do, is kind of like a division of NXT, much like the Cruiserweights is a division of Raw. They're not on Raw, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I feel like until they can finally pin down the UK guys, and by the way, they hired like 20 extra UK guys.
Right.
So until they finalize that and get them their deal and their show and logistics and all that done, they're kind of just an extra division of NXT so that they're still utilized and you remember these guys. Because had they not shown you any of these guys and said we'll have a show starting in December, you gonna remember anybody who was in that tournament a year and a half ago?
That's true. I think super indie is a good term for it. I mean, looking at the list here, I will reiterate I am not fully clued up on the whole UK independent scene, but I do watch Insane Championship Wrestling, the Glasgow-based promotion, and names off the top of my head from the list here that will be in the tournament. You've got Joseph Connors, Ashton Smith was part of a tag team, a very dominant monster, they were booked like monsters tag team. Jordan Devlin, whose nickname is the Import Killer.
Was that his nickname?
Yeah, quite like that nickname. Joe Coffey, who's challenging his real-life brother Mark Coffey for the ICW. It's called the Zero G Championship, which is effectively their IC title. Kenny Williams, who was on 205 Live last week, he's actually involved in a hot angle right now where he screwed over his best friend and has signed up with the sort of heel authority stable now. So he's actually, you've got Joe Coffey and Kenny Williams in big ICW storylines at the moment. You had also Flash Morgan Webster on last week. So through me starting to watch ICW and all that, those names crossing over into other places like Progress,
Defiant,
yeah. There's a lot of the names that I'm starting to recognise. So I have an even more incentive, not just because it's UK, but because I know quite a lot of these names now. I've got an incentive to see them, and you've got return.
I'm adding to what you. I'm sorry to add to what you're saying. It's funny that we're in a world now where you have to pay attention to indies if you're a WWE fan, because odds are in 5 years your favorite indie wrestler will be a WWE superstar.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, look at Pete Dunne.
I give you a better one, Keith Lee.
Aye, Keith Lee.
Or let's stay current. Ricochet, Adam Cole, Aleister Black, Andrade Cien Almas, La Sombra, like the best indie guys who aren't Bullet Club members. That's basically the only ones, or like New Japan top big four guys. Most of them end up in WWE at one point.
They do. Yep. Just a random aside, Kenny Williams, his gimmick is he's kind of like a Back to the Future super fan. So he comes down to the ring in the big body warmer, stuff like that, and the ring announcer says, coming down the aisle, coming down to the ring, weighing in at 1.21 gigawatts.
But
that just amuses me.
Wasn't that basically Kushida's gimmick in the Time Splitters?
I think so. I'm not too sure about that though.
I just know Kushida and Alex Shelley teamed together for a while as the Time Splitters, and they would come out to like Back to the Future style music and props and stuff. So, tell me about Zach Gibson. I know the kid, but I feel like Zach Gibson might be the one guy. If you're just I won't say casual, but if you're just a casual viewer of things not WWE, Zach Gibson might be the one guy of those 16 that you might have heard of.
I have, and I will show my ignorance. I know the name very well, but see, right this second, I can't tell you much about him.
Okay. He seems to be kind of
he's making a name for himself, I know that much, definitely.
He's in a lot of main events, a lot of big matches. He seems to be kind of cut from the same mold as Pete Dunne, but just from, well, he's a baby too, so Zach Gibson's a baby, isn't he?
I think so.
A good guy. But I don't know. He has a good look. You know what? Why isn't Paige's brother in the tournament? Why would they will not give him a look for anything?
I think he has similar issues to Paige, personal, like there's a lot of airing their dirty laundry.
Got you.
With the Beavises.
Got you.
So I think just because of it's not because, we've went through this with Paige, we don't want to go down that road again. I just think it's a case of, right, he's been a bit of a carry-on, so we'll just not bother. I don't know. I'm not sure how great he is.
I mean, I don't know if he's any good at all. It's funny to me that Paige has had to retire because of her neck. You guys are doing a movie about her life where he's the second main character in the movie, and homeboy can't even get a tryout. I mean, it's just funny to me.
It might end up... Zach Gibson is pretty prevalent in the Progress Wrestling. He's actually been a tag team champ with James Drake, who's in it.
Is that the homeboy with one ear?
That's Joseph Connors.
It's Connors, okay.
I really like Connors, and I think Triple H really likes Connors. He's got that sort of nasty streak to him. I think he'll be a bigger feature in the future.
Yeah, I think so too.
He's Preston City Wrestling as well. Zach Gibson's big in. Preston City Wrestling is the one where AJ Styles broke a wrestler's neck.
I mean, I get it, but I don't get it. Like, the Styles Clash looks like the simplest move ever.
Yeah. It was Lionheart's neck that he broke, who's in ICW as well.
So is Lionheart still wrestling?
Yes, he is. He's returned to wrestling, and he actually had a match again with AJ Styles later the next year with Preston
Talk about
City.
Fearless.
I know.
Like a lion. Ha ha.
Oh, very good.
Oh.
He teases using the Styles Clash himself now and again.
So, okay, so here's a question I want to talk about to kind of put it into more of a macro conversation. We know that there are a million different styles of wrestling, but they seem to fall into like four major styles, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have your British grappling, mat-based British strong style type style. You have your Japanese puro fighting style, strong style type stuff, right? Like spirit. You have lucha or high flying. It's all kind of in the same realm, even though it's different. And then you kind of have the theatrical, mainstream American style, right?
Right.
What is it about UK wrestlers and the British style? So, like, if you were to name the top wrestlers in each style, right?
Historically,
right? You have Bruno and Hogan and Austin and Rock and all that in America, and you have Conan and the Guerrero family and Ray and Mystico and Mil Mascaras and all that stuff, and Antonio Inoki and Tanahashi and whatever. You have all these tremendous figures.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that the British don't have the same level, but it seems it just feels like the style of the area that British wrestlers don't seem to become as big a star as they should. Which is why it's so interesting that the UK is the first group to get their own division. What is it about that, being a man from the UK?
Well, I think when you're talking about the pioneers of each of those categories, and maybe it's because of lack of knowledge, but I think it's safe to say that William Regal is one of the very best there's been for the British wrestling style. Oh, absolutely.
But would you put William Regal in the same conversation worldwide with Antonio Inoki?
No,
or Hulk Hogan, or Mil Mascaras, or El Santo. El Santo was so popular he got buried in his mask.
Probably not, but I mean Regal and all the guys, Brookside, Finlay, they went all over Europe They were a massive deal in Europe.
Yeah. Gentleman Chris Adams, Dave Taylor, even go further back, Big Daddy.
I mean, Regal's wrestled the likes of Giant Haystacks and all those guys. I know that's a different style, that's more pantomime, but he's been there and done it. So maybe
it's still the era, the area. I mean, but I'm just curious, what is it about British guys that doesn't allow? I won't say doesn't allow, but hasn't seemed to have allowed them to become
superstars,
the biggest stars in the world. Yeah, like true superstars, like and Davey Boy, of course, and Dynamite. You know, like they have stars, but I hate to say it like this because none of this is a diss. I'm really just curious because I feel like they deserve more.
Until recently, there's been a reservedness about their characters. They're not larger than life on screen.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I feel like they get thrown into that dreaded, they're good hands.
I mean, on
group.
The likes of Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks, they were huge in the UK scene, literally. But they
literally, yes.
So they were superstars, but it just wasn't as on such a grand scale as the likes of WWE and all its incarnations and different names that they've had. The wider audience aspect of it. But I think to answer the question, UK have maybe been picked first. I'm just guessing. Triple H is probably saying, right, we're scouting, we're looking to grow territories. Regal probably knows the scene inside out. Brookside probably knows the scene inside out. They said, right, well, we know so many wrestlers off the top of our head that we can contact. Why don't we try UK first? It's an English-speaking country.
Yeah.
I think that's probably one of the other things as well.
And I think you would know better than me because you know you're tuned into the scene and you're over there and you're a big ICW fan. So I guess speaking of ICW, you can say guys like Grado, you know.
Yep.
But I feel like everything has its time, right? For example, James Cameron wanted to make Avatar 15 years before he did, but he knew that the technology hadn't made it yet.
Right.
Stuff like that. Like everything has its time. You know, house music was kind of popular in the early 90s, but now dubstep has become so important and so big that they're winning Grammys. And DJs are the biggest stars in the world, right? Like everything has its time. I feel like the way the wrestling world and wrestling fans, especially diehards in general, I feel like the way they are now, they're more in tune to the in-ring ability and less into character work, which has led to the prominence of so many of these UK guys because they do have characters. Flash Morgan Webster is a guy, when you guys see him, you'll kind of see him and kind of be like, oh, it's kind of like a mob boss type dude. But
yeah, I'm not sure if I like it because I know what people who wear Union Jack motorbike helmets are like. Sort of modern day trying to be Oasis type thing.
I got you. That's fair. But I just feel like it's the time now. The time makes sense. Like we just talked about how big Pete Dunne is. Pete Dunne is one of the top 5 hottest guys probably in the company.
I would say so. It could be biased, but it could be because what I've been watching is just sensational in the ring.
Yes.
Just his story overall. He's got both. He's got the wrestling prowess and the character prowess. He's got that character nailed down to an absolute T, and he's not that much older than Tyler Bate.
He's like what? Tyler Bate is 21. I think he's 24.
Yeah, 23 or 4.
Yeah. But the dude doesn't walk. The dude doesn't talk.
I know.
But
possibly,
a guy who doesn't talk is so over. Think about it.
He's got that Ozzy Osbourne accent from Birmingham. So
he kind of does, doesn't he?
It doesn't lend itself well. It does. And Birmingham people will say this themselves. It's a very, very thick accent. So it would seem it would stick out like a sore thumb on American TV, and it does when he speaks, but he can't help that. It's not his fault.
But you know what? In wrestling, different is good. So it is very weird when you hear him talk. It sounds weird. And he already, I'm not trying to diss the dude. He already looks weird. He already has a very distinct look. But different is good, man. Jack Swagger was a 6'6" college All-American who had a lisp. You don't forget that.
That's true. See, even Pete Dunne's acne scars add to how he comes across.
Absolutely. It helps his character.
I know. It's crazy how that works out. You were talking about it being the right time for the UK scene. Ricky actually brought a question forward that he wanted us to talk about. It's hard to really say because you said yourself, I'll go through the names, right, and the matches. So you've got Drew Gulak versus Jack Gallagher, Ashton Smith versus Joseph Connors. This is the first round, which will take place, I believe, at the Download Festival.
Well, Gallagher and Drew Gulak was already taped for NXT, but the rest were yes.
Right. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that was spoiler.
Oh, Full Sail, the crowd would lap up Gulak big time. Fantastic. I'm looking forward to that. Flash Morgan Webster versus James Drake, Kenny Williams versus Dave Mastiff, Ligero, who's actually quite the veteran.
I believe he looks like he's old.
Versus Travis Banks, Zach Gibson versus Amir Jordan, Tucker versus Joe Coffey, and Jordan Devlin versus Tyson T-Bone. Now, we both know a select handful of people from that, and your answer might not even be in this group, but who would you say is the next big UK star and why? And that question was from Ricky.
Okay, of the group, I would say Webster because he has a distinct gimmick. And he can wrestle, but he has a distinct gimmick to add to that. In terms of the entire UK scene, speaking of, and I would equate that to the answer very clearly is Sabre. Zack Sabre Jr. has the ability to become William Regal-esque. It's just, he's doing it in New Japan. He's not doing it in WWE. He might not ever do it in WWE. And on top of that, the way New Japan is structured, he is second in command, I guess you would say, in Suzuki-gun.
Right.
I mean, they're basically it's a bunch of henchmen, Suzuki, Sabre, and Killer Elite Squad. But then the rest are just henchmen. But in terms of new guys, man, I'm not that plugged into the UK tournament like that. I mean, like Zach Gibson, I like a lot. Dave Mastiff is tremendously huge. And the stuff dude can do to be so big. You know what? I like the ring count guys. I know that's not UK, but it's Europe. Like Walter and Timothy Thatcher. I love those guys.
Timothy Thatcher's a good. From that group, I really like Joseph Connors. I like his style. He reminds me of that Finn Balor mould, the sort of slight but very wiry. And has the smash mouth style. But I'm going to throw a curveball in, and I think I'm going to say, and I'll be honest, I'm not sure why she wasn't signed. And in today's landscape, it would make sense if she was signed, but I think with is there going to be another Mae Young Classic this year?
Should be, yeah. Oh, yeah, I know you're going with this. You guys listening, this is the most biased answer you will ever hear this man say.
She's good.
She's very good, yes. She's unique.
She is. I'm talking about Viper, aka Piper Niven, who was in last year's Mae Young Classic, had an excellent match with Toni Storm. They have actually got quite the independent scene rivalry. They've been fighting for a long time against each other. She's doing an Austin Aries right now, and she's collecting belts left, right and centre as Piper Niven. She's current IC.
Question for you. Question for you. How big do you think that she could actually get?
In WWE or in Indies?
In WWE. Like, if they were to sign her today, and let's say she were to get, just hypothetically speaking, she was called up main roster, she got adequate pushing, but just on her own merit as a character, do you think she could reach Charlotte, Asuka level?
Oh.
Do you think she'd be like Naomi, Natty level? Would she even reach Nikki Bella level? Which is, she may not be as good a wrestler as the rest, but she's definitely the number one woman people know from WWE. Like, what do you think she could get? Because I know you're so biased. And it's okay. Don't get me, I'm not saying that to be bad. Like, I have, like, my favorite women's wrestler in the entire world is Mia Yim. Like, we all have our biases, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just curious to know how big she would get in a WWE setting, because it's a completely different animal than WWE, than the Indies.
Well, I think first of all she can wrestle. She's got that down, and she's shown that.
True.
And it's probably, I'm not sure if it's unfair of me to do the similarities, but she is larger like Nia Jax, and Nia Jax's storyline and shoot-wise has broken down a lot of barriers and stigmas and attached to heavier women wrestlers becoming top draws.
True.
Whether Nia Jax is going to be a top draw is unanswerable at the moment, but
she's an Annoy. She's going to be a draw in some form.
She's
not an Annoy, but she's the Annoy family. You know what I mean?
Aye, that's true. So with all those barriers being broken down, there's room for Piper to come back in. She did really well. She got to the semi-finals of the Mae Young Classic, and she was a hit with Full Sail crowd. So they could do the story of her. She's been collecting belts. She comes back in, and the accomplishment that she wants next is the Mae Young Classic, and to become part of the NXT show, and then eventually move up to WWE. It could be a biased answer, but in terms of UK stars, and maybe because I watch her regularly and I don't watch Dave Mastiff every week, I don't watch Tucker every week, so because I see how good she can be, there is that. But I think that I'd like to see her again in the Mae Young Classic anyway, and do something good with her.
Who's the ICW World Champion? Is it Mikey Whipwreck now?
No, you mean Mikey Whiplash?
Mikey Whip. So they're not the same person. There you go.
No.
All right. Hey guys, my name is Rance and I'm stupid. Okay.
The current wrestler is Stevie Boy. He actually they've got a similar. The ICW combine the Royal Rumble and the Money in the Bank briefcase. So if you win their version of the Royal Rumble, you have a briefcase and you can cash in whenever you want. At the latest pay-per-view, Barramania 4, Stevie G cashed in on a match between BT Gunn and Mikey Whiplash. So Stevie G is the champion.
I know BT Gunn. I know him. I've heard of him before.
Stevie G's girlfriend is actually Kaylee Ray. Oh,
okay. I know Kaylee Ray.
Because she was in the Mae Young
Classic, yes. But then also she like, her personality is one that you kind of hear about. She's a very different type of woman. So she's an interesting kind of woman. She's kind of hardcore, isn't she? She's kind of like a hardcore fighter.
Yeah, she's had a few matches with the guys in ICW, and she can take a beating. Like, she's not scared at all. She goes for it.
Okay, so the real question is, I guess, you want to put a bow on all this.
Mm-hmm.
Which group of people has the bigger, which group of people has the bigger future? The UK men or the UK women?
I think the UK women have a very promising future, if allowed to have one. I don't mean if allowed, I mean if they're given that opportunity on television.
Everybody listening knows what you mean.
Uh-huh.
Yes, it's WWE. You are picked to be pushed. We get it.
Yeah. But I think with Drew, in terms of not the division on its own, but just UK wrestlers, Vince McMahon will look at Drew McIntyre and say, "God damn it, pal, vascular."
He's doing it now.
Uh-huh.
He's already doing it.
He's already doing it.
Drew is built to be a champion.
Oh, aye. He is just a big tank. And I think he might not be Vince's favourite, but Pete Dunne has star written all over him.
He's Triple H's favourite.
Oh, uh-huh.
That's for damn sure.
Definitely. He's probably Regal's favourite as well.
There's only one person I think that's currently signed to NXT that Triple H loves more than Pete Dunne, and that's Adam Cole. And Triple H loves Adam Cole so much, I feel like Triple H thinks Adam Cole is his son.
Probably.
He loves that guy so much.
But we all know that Conor Reeves is the greatest NXT ever.
Can we talk Conor Reeves for just like 1 minute? He's getting better. Like I thought it was the most garbage, trash, terrible debut in history. And then the next week, things had progressed. The music was better. The jacket was better. The intro was better. The movement in the ring was better. Like it's getting there.
There was, I have to admit, there was an improvement. But I'm enjoying jumping on the bandwagon of Conor Reeves as trash.
It's not a bandwagon. Everybody believes
and,
that.
Full Sail, they're going to lap it up. This will be the same as Elias, same as Eva Marie. He will get booed to deafening point. And it's going to work in his favour.
Will he get booed so bad like Bo Dallas did that they stand up and turn their backs to him? Will he get that bad?
Do you know, he won't even be there that long because Vince will say, "Up you come, pal."
Oh, God. So there you go, guys. Conor Reeves is going to be a Survivor Series. You heard it here first.
The Finest will win the Survivor Series match for Raw.
Conor Reeves is going to be in the Royal Rumble.
Oh. They will?
Oh. And for the record, I like the Hawaiian drop, just not as a finisher.
Not as a name either.
I get it because it's a play on words. I get it.
It's a play on words, but it's a bad play on words.
But there is some very bad play up, like the skull crushing finale, bro. Like that's a terrible name.
It is.
But it's been 15 years. We're used to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like there are some terrible finishers.
In terms of impact or name?
In terms of name.
Whirling Dervish.
So that's a thing, right? It's a thing that exists.
Apparently.
Okay, I'm gonna start calling you Mr. Niven. Mr. Niven, what is Viper's finisher called?
It's the Viper driver. So it's like a Michinoku driver. That's what it is.
I know what it is. It's like a split leg. She picks you up looking like Bam Bam used to.
Mm-hmm.
Not Bam Bam. Bam Bam. And then she just kind of drops you down.
Yeah, it's kind of like Dana Brooke's finisher.
Yeah. Kind of. Well, but Dana Brooke basically does the what was Saban's finisher called? The culture shock? Whatever. What did he call it? Chris Saban's finisher?
Not a clue.
But you guys listen. You know what I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
So, what else you got for me, man? I feel like I'm British by proxy now. Am I British enough to come to Buckingham Palace and chill with Prince Harry and Prince William?
Well, funny you say Prince Harry. Ricky and myself, Ricky actually lives in Dumbarton and I am in a neighbouring town. When Prince Harry married Meghan Markle at the weekend, they became the Earl and Countess of Dumbarton.
Oh, nice.
Well, it's nice, but it's really bizarre.
All this, none of that makes sense to me. I don't get kingdoms. We kind of got away from that about 400 years ago. We kind of ran away from that.
How would I describe it? There's regular chances of them coming to visit, and it would be the equivalent of not so much. It would be the equivalent of the vice president coming to your town regularly just to say hello.
Well, technically, I live in Houston, so you might not want to use my town. I get it though, like Carlstown or Caleb's town. I get it. Yeah.
So
I mean, I understand. I just think the best part about this whole situation is that the Queen in 40 years is going to be a black woman. We're taking over, dog. We're taking over.
Oh, I just caught my laugh caught in my throat there, nearly swallowed the whole microphone.
Yep. We've been planning this for a long time.
I like it. I do like it. That's excellent. A few assassinations have to take place first, though.
Well, I mean, I don't want nobody to die, but we'll figure it out.
I'm just thinking of the order, the air order.
So, if the Queen, this is riveting wrestling talk, by the way, I'm sure.
We'll keep this short.
If the Queen were to pass, God rest her soul, who gets the throne? Would it be Prince Charles?
Prince Charles, right?
And then if he were to pass, then it would go to William because William's older.
And then his 3 sons.
Oh, so
sorry, 2 sons.
If something happened to William, it wouldn't go to Harry?
No, it's William's children first.
Oh, so Harry just chilling then?
Harry can do what he wants.
Clearly he can. I'm not mad at him.
Well, he has done what he wants in the past.
This is true. This is true.
So we may have to wait a bit longer than 40 years for a black queen, but you just never know. It's very possible.
Well, look, in 2,000 years, we never were even on the list. We're on the list now.
So whenever Prince Harry and Princess Meghan come to Dumbarton, I will interview them for the podcast and ask them their thoughts on Pete Dunne.
That would be the greatest interview in the history of interviews. I would love that. That
would be excellent, wouldn't it? But since we have went on the greatest tangent of all time, talking about black queens, shall we wait?
Wait. When you say the word black queen, that denotes a different thought process. I just want you to know that.
What was it?
But okay, that's conversation for off the call.
Right, let's move things very swiftly along. Right?
Yes. Yes, please.
How do you feel about a UK wrestler centric quiz?
I'm going to fail, but I'm excited, and let's do it.
Excellent. Now I've got a treat for you tonight. Now, this may or may not be a previous guest and friend of the show, JR. It may also be, instead of me singing the theme tune, I have a certain NXT general manager singing the theme tune for you this week. How do you feel about that?
I am confused, scared, and excited at the same time.
Okay, well, let me just set up my phone for this one. Okay, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast, William Regal.
It's fucking quiz time. With me, William Regal, Ricky and Clive, and friends. A special edition UK wrestling quiz.
It just flew in just for that.
Hey man, look, I like that he gives back.
He does.
Didn't have to do that.
He gives back to the community. Right, so, as I said, this is a new UK-centric quiz. The first one actually comes from a Reddit user, Steve Alino. Right, so, first question. What UK wrestler held the NXT tag team titles alongside Neville?
Oliver Gray.
Oh, straight off the bat there.
I'm an NXT fan. I've been watching it since they rebranded, so I know that one. Okay,
right. Thank you. And the rest of the questions come from Ricky.
Oh God. By the way, if I were going to have to use a catchphrase as my buzzer.
Oh,
out
sorry
of respect
about that.
for my. Well, we don't need one. It's just me.
Uh-huh.
But out of respect for my brother Ricky and happy Ramadan, my man, it was gonna be Rusev Machka, just because of love for my boy.
Okay, we all know my thoughts on Rusev, so
Well, that was for Ricky, so
yeah. Right, so this question: has a UK wrestler ever won a version of the heavyweight title, the WWE heavyweight title, world title? Yes or no?
it depends on if you count Sheamus.
He's technically not British. He's from Ireland. Northern Ireland's part of Britain, but Ireland isn't.
Well, yeah, that's you're right. So no, they never have.
Okay. Correct.
Is that right?
Yeah, correct answer.
Okay, yeah. Whew.
Right. Who has won more titles with WWE or WWF? William Regal or British Bulldog? Who's won more?
See, I feel like this is one of those that's gonna confuse me because the answer seems fairly obvious that it's British Bulldog, but Regal might have surprised me. But I'm gonna say Bulldog.
British Bulldog has won 9 titles and William Regal has won 13.
See, I knew that was one of those that was gonna trick me.
And
I can't remember I remember him winning like an IC. No, all those European titles.
No, it's a question from Ricky. Have a guess.
Is it the hardcore title? Thank you, Ricky.
That's it. Right, next one. He's got a few who am I's for you, so you've to guess the wrestler based on these clues. Okay.
All right.
I am a 5-time Intercontinental Champion. Next clue. He didn't give me any other clues because I guessed it straight away, so I'll just make some up. I no longer wrestle for WWE.
Stu Bennett, Bad News Barrett.
Well done.
Yeah.
Next question. I am a 1-time Diva Champion.
Layla?
Yes. I didn't get that at all, that one.
That's the only British woman I could think of besides Paige.
Mm-hmm. That was my first guess. Next one. I think this is the last one. So it's a short quiz tonight, I'm afraid.
Well, it's just one person, so I mean, the fun is when it's 2 people.
Right.
So, by the way, I won technically because it's just me. But, okay.
Congratulations in advance.
Thank you. I'm very proud of myself.
Name the active wrestlers from UK who have won a title on the main roster.
Does the Cruiserweight Championship count?
Let me rephrase that question.
Because Neville's technically active. He ain't fired yet.
Mm-hmm. Name a current wrestler on the active... name an active wrestler on the main roster who has won a title, who currently wrestles for WWE, who is in the Superstars page on the website. Bloody hell.
Okay.
What a mouthful this one is. That's my fault though. So someone who has wrestled on the main roster and has been a champion of some description. Name 2.
Okay. Can you tell me how many people it is?
I've got 2 here.
So Drew McIntyre.
Mm-hmm.
Drew McIntyre is 1.
You said
who?
You said the other one. And I'm not. Well, this is a technicality one because they're not exactly active, but they're not wrestling for WWE.
Neville?
Yes. There we go. Sorry, that was a mess. That was my fault.
No, it's okay. It's the UK division is interesting. So okay, I have a UK question for you.
Okay.
Which UK and I said his name already, but which UK wrestler invented the super kick and has the best super kick of all time? I think he's British.
I haven't the foggiest idea.
Isn't Gentleman Chris Adams British?
I think so.
Yeah, well, he's as far as I know, he's the first person to use a super kick.
This is news to me. So I could, for all I know, I could call you a liar right now if I wanted to.
Maybe that's the next quiz. Am I lying or not? Well, hey, look. This is the best quiz ever because I won unanimously.
You did. You got everything right as well. Like, it wasn't a case of you beat the other person. You just had all the answers. The Layla one, I had no clue at all.
Well, let me tell you something, brother. No, I'm just playing. I'm just joking. Yeah, hey man, I'm proud of myself. You know, I train and I study for these quizzes way ahead of time. And yeah, so you know, thank Ricky and Clive. I'd like to thank my hood. I'd like to thank my mama. But yeah.
Speaking of being proud of yourself, would you like to plug all your work?
Jesus Christ, we'll be here all night. Okay, so you can catch me on World Class Radio every morning on thechairshot.com with Jordan Fox. He's at Fox the Podcaster. The show is at World Class Daily. We are actually sponsored by World Class Revolution, the professional wrestling company based out of Oklahoma, who has just now started being syndicated in Missouri and Kansas. So that's that. You can catch me on The Outsider's Edge with our favorite person, Carl Irvin, my partner in crime. He's at Outsider Curvin. The show's at Outsider's Edge SS. That is a very proud part of the Social Suplex Network, brother show to Ricky and Clive. I also write a column every week for thechairshot.com. It should be out this week. It should be out today, actually. This is delving into character alignment and what it really is. Do we really still know what it is, and has it evolved or not? You can find me at It's Ray Cash. Since Vince McMahon basically made like $4 billion this week, I have officially changed my last name to McMahon. I am the first Irish black dude since Sammy Davis Jr. So that's that. Other than that, man, yeah, you can follow me at It's Ray Cash, REY as in Mysterio, CASH as in dollars, and yeah, that's all. I think that's it. If I forgot something, I apologize.
Well, I forget things all the time, but before I do start forgetting things, I had a sneak peek of your column, and I'm looking forward to reading that one actually. So when you've read that, when you've listened to this, or if you see the tweet first, check out Rance's new column on character alignment. It's quite interesting.
Thank you.
So do you think I'll get it all without any mistakes this time? I'm going to go for it. You can catch Ricky and Clive at Ricky and Clive on Twitter and Facebook. We are in the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group under my shoot name, Brian K. You can finish the rest. We are on the Social Suplex Podcast Network, which you're listening to. Thank you for all your listens. If there are any new listeners, please subscribe and rate on the podcast app of your choice. For the other shows on the network are, as Rance said, Outsider's Edge, the indie show Grown Men Watch This Shit, Keeping It Strong Style, the New Japan show with Josh and Jeremy. Rich Latta does the One Nation Radio, One Nation Live. Caleb does the Wrestling Wash. Have I missed anything out there?
No, that's it.
Oh, one more thing. We're getting really good responses for the NXT survey that I've got going on at the moment for the NXT Takeover special that we've got planned for June the 6th. If you haven't taken the survey yet, or if you want to take it again, you can if you have different answers. The link will be in the show notes again. All the Twitter handles for the shows that I've mentioned are in the show notes as well. I think that's me. I think I covered it all. Fantastic. Thank you for joining me tonight, Rance.
My pleasure, man. Thank you for having me. You know how the show says Ricky and Clive and friends?
Uh-huh.
I'm the friend in Ricky and Clive, I feel like.
Well, we just say and Rance.
Might as well. You know how American kids go overseas to like study abroad?
Uh-huh.
I feel like I'm the exchange student in your house that just, sleeps on your couch and eats your food.
See, you've got a bit of everything on this podcast. You even got an In Your House reference in there.
It's a gift, man. It's a gift. Thank you for having me. This is my favorite show, no exaggeration. It's always a pleasure to be on here, man. Anytime you need me.
Thank you. We might need you based on the Ramadan coming up, but I'm sure we'll get Ricky back on as soon as possible.
Well, the goal is to change the show from Ricky and Clive to Rance and Clive.
I think Ricky wants it to be Ricky and Carl.
So we're just going to switch partners?
Yep.
Hey, I'm down.
So let me practice. Hey, yo.
That's all you got to say. That's it.
That's it. Outsider's edge there for you. Right, let's go before we start talking shite about the Queen again.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you, and good night.
Thank you for listening to the Ricky and Clive Wrestling Podcast. We'll see you next time.